Everybody please welcome our next speaker, the one, the only, the amazing Carmen! Woohoo!
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Can I take a moment because I have the microphone and no one can stop me? Can we give a round of applause to Anjana for absolutely killing it today? Right? Like, honestly, nonstop, all day, what a powerhouse. I'm gonna hop right in. Don't wanna keep you all too long. One day on the Vienna Freelancer Slack group, I saw this message. I have a client looking for a React Native dev, remote, freelance, good rate, could end up being a retainer situation. You know, reading this kind of sounds like it could go with the music of like, I'm looking for a man in finance, you know? Kinda. Anyway, I just realized that now. Anyway, so the stack for this app was React Native and TypeScript. And like, one of the things that I love about being a freelancer is that for some reason it gave me the confidence to be like, yeah, I can try TypeScript, no problem. Something to note, when I joined, it had been a very long time since this project had been worked on. And let me just illustrate that with what I saw when I tried to run the app. Could not find iPhone 6 simulator. Now here's the thing, y'all. The iPhone 6 did not actually come out last year like I feel it did. It's been longer since the iPhone 6 and now than the release of the original iPhone and the iPhone 6. I'm just sharing some of my pain. Anyway, so I couldn't run it on iOS. Couldn't run it on Android either. I don't know, something about Java. And I thought, well, okay, I'll just upgrade everything. It'll be fine. I'll just, bump React Native, which, just to give you all an idea of where we were at that time, version 55 to 74. So I gave it a try. I was like, okay, well, I'll just hop into package.json and change that 55 into a 74. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Turns out that that's not how it works. Something broke. So I thought, okay, no problem, I'll just upgrade React then. But that broke too. And then I tried to upgrade React DOM, and that broke too. And it kind of started feeling like one of those boxes that can I get a show of hands, please? Do you all have one of these at home? A cable box? Let me see some hands, please. The vast majority of you, please keep them. Don't let the haters stop you. You will someday need that Nokia 3310 charger, I promise. For the purposes of this presentation, however, to me it felt more like knitting. Don't let my terrible art deter you. That is, in fact, a ball of yarn tangles next to, actually, I didn't draw either of these, but I tried to draw the ball of yarn. I failed. Anyway, it felt more like trying to untangle a bunch of dependencies. And so, what I'm here to talk about, you might be wondering, what are the best practices for managing dependencies? And well, let's be more honest, what are my favorite practices for managing dependencies? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. But in order to do that, you might know, but who am I? Hi, I'm Carmen, pronounce she, her. I've worked a lot in developer education, and I just love tech community so much because of that aspect of sharing and learning and vulnerability. Like one of the things that my friend Jess and I founded was the Bad Website Club, which is a free learning initiative where we just make websites no matter, maybe they don't look amazing, maybe they're not using, the latest and greatest frameworks, but we're still getting out there. And I'm so grateful to be here today with all of you. If it wasn't for the opportunities that I've been given, I wouldn't be here. And I want to encourage all of you to also share and also learn and also be vulnerable when needed. So, let's talk about dependencies, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel I take dependencies for granted. And the thing about dependencies is, sure, it's as easy as running npm install or yarn-add or whatever. And the thing is, they add up. Have you seen this meme? The heaviest objects in the universe? Somebody made a game where, I don't know if you all know the game Katamari Damacy, where you play as a little guy rolling a ball and you pick up stuff and that ball gets bigger and you can pick up bigger stuff. Somebody made that where you give it your node modules folder and then you can pick up bigger dependencies and stuff. It's a lot of fun. But sometimes it feels like a careful balance act working with these things. And sometimes we feel tempted to go in and change something and it can feel a little bit tricky, like a giant game of Jenga. Now I'm going to do that thing that super cool thing where I like bring in a clever quote. Art is never finished, only abandoned. I want to clarify. I tried so hard to find out if it was actually Leonardo da Vinci that said this, because it could be one of those quotes that like keeps getting attributed to people like Mark Twain or whatever. Like, but look, I couldn't find anything to the contrary. But like, I feel like a lot of this applies to software as well. We have to keep stuff up to date. We need to keep, bringing out updates as platforms and vulnerabilities prop up. So I'm going to go through a handful of strategies that I've picked up over the years and hope to share some of them with you. Then I want to hear from y'all. What are some of your favorite strategies? And the first one is trying to understand better what kind of dependencies exist. Because, you open up your package.json and you see your dependencies and your dev dependencies. I'm going to be honest. For the longest time, I kind of struggled to figure out which one was for which. And I was like, well, I developed React. I'm developing in React, so I guess it's a dev dependency? I don't know. So here's the thing. Dependencies get bundled into your app, into your production build. Dev dependencies are tools in order to build that production build, but they don't go in, most of the time. Some bundlers can get this mixed up, and there has been some issues on like frameworks. I think it was Meteor that had that a few years ago that turns out they were putting their dev dependencies in their bundles. And we know those. Those are called direct dependencies. And we know the other type as well. And I didn't know they have a name. Transitive dependencies. And these are the dependencies that your dependencies depend on. Wow, that actually came out super smoothly. And these can add up. And they're always just sort of like sneaking in there. But it turns out there's other kinds of dependencies. Have y'all heard of peer dependencies? Can I get some hands? Cool. These are dependencies that our package is compatible with. Say we are developing a fancy charts package. If we declare let me try that again. If we declare chart.js as a peer dependency, then when we go to install fancy charts, chart.js will be installed as a dependency along with it. And this means that they're compatible. And then there's the world of the package lock.json. Can I ask, does any of y'all open this file when not rebasing? Okay, cool. This is a declaration of every version of a dependency and its codependent dependencies. And look at that. That's like 18,000 lines long. That's a lot of dependencies. Understanding this has helped me manage my dependencies better. But the other thing to remember is, look at us here. I'm not the only software developer in the world, believe it or not. And I don't know about y'all, but I find it incredible when people go out there and make tools to manage those dependency upgrades easier. Have y'all heard of either of these? Yarn Upgrade Interactive or NPM Check Updates? I see a couple hands. This is such a great tool because what it allows you to do, I don't know if y'all can see it okay. Yeah, that looks all right. What it allows you to do is see what version you have installed and what is the version available for you to upgrade to, and helps you manage this in a visual way. Can we give a shout out to React Native community? Like, oh my goodness. Has anybody used the upgrade helper before? Isn't it just amazing that somebody out there made a tool that you can be like, I'm going from version 55 to 74, and it gives you not only instructions on how to upgrade, but diffs of those configuration files, so that you can go line by line and upgrade accordingly without, everything breaking, because it does. And when stuff breaks, how helpful it is to break the problem down. Am I the only one who's seen this? Error resolve could not resolve when trying to upgrade something? Am I the only one? Come on, I can't be the only one. That's what I thought. What helps me when I am in a situation like this, and I'm like, deer in the headlights, I'm like, what do I do? I don't know where to start. What helps me is to break the problem down. I'm going to laser focus first on getting the iOS build running. And then I'll worry about Android. And then I break that problem down into smaller problems. Adopt to auto-linking. That's how far away we were. Done. Fix compiler errors. Done. Fix broken UI elements. Done. Fix bugs introduced by upgrading. Done. Fix compiler warnings. Done. All done. Now that that's working, now that the iOS build is running, move on to Android. Same thing. Bam, 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 all done. Then you get back to iOS, stuff's broken again. Doing that systematically kind of reminds me of one of my favorite video games. Hear me out. Please don't make me feel old. Does anybody know Greenhouse from Game & Watch? Amazing. We have one. Okay, I mean, look, I'm not that old, but there was a version on the Game Boy. I know that's old, but hear me out. Anyway, what I loved about this game is that you played as a gardener taking care of their garden, and like bugs were coming in, and you had to focus on each bug. See? Bugs, software. Anyway, you had to focus on each bug at a time. And having that laser focus really helps me not drown when managing so many moving parts, when spinning so many plates. Cool, I'm going to do the thing now where I talk about tools and people have opinions and like, look, I'm going to be honest. You go with the tool that works. I'm a big, big advocate for the right tool for the job. I'm going to pick Yarn because it has like parallel installs or whatever, or like, oh, fun fact, did you know that the P in PNPM stands for performant? I looked it up for this presentation and that alone. But I can't speak enough about how important it is to understand, yes, the right tool for the job also involves what is working for you. If you know PNPM better, go with that. And a lot of these offer tools to make and understand why those dependencies are installed. Have you all heard of NPM-Y? Nice. It's so cool because you could just be like, hey, NPM, why does my project have dequal? Dequal? I don't know how to pronounce it. And it just tells you which packages are declaring that as a dependency. Have you all heard of knip? Knip? I'm going with knip. Have you all heard of this? Oh my God, it's so cool. It lets you find unused files, look at it there. Dependencies and exports to JavaScript and TypeScript projects. It helps you trim out the parts that you may not be using or don't need. But what about monorepos? Do we have monorepo fans in here? If you're not familiar, monorepos are these giant code bases that share dependencies and are made up of smaller projects. Have you all heard of yarnworkspaces? Nice. This allows you to have those separate code bases that share dependencies. Things like websites, multiple packages. Fun fact, I love when somebody makes a tool that they themselves use. That's called dog fooding, by the way, and it's such a strange term. Rumor has it that it comes from the fact that a dog food company's owner would eat the dog food. Look, unconfirmed. Somebody did look it up. It is a rumor. Anyway, Yarn uses workspaces. Like the Yarn code base itself uses Yarn workspaces. I love that. Maybe y'all have heard of NX? Same thing. NX offers a whole bunch of stuff, but I've used NX for my monorepos, and it's amazing because I just need to worry about dependencies in one place for several code bases. Okay, this one surprised me. Have y'all heard of NPM shrink wrap? This is a publishable, okay, hear me out. It's like a publishable package lock. And this is fantastic for when you have things like CLI tools will be locked or published so that you can declare exactly which dependencies you need. Sorry, just saw somebody taking a photo, wanted to give you the opportunity to do that. Have you all heard of NPM audit? Cool. Same thing. Having these tools to find out which dependencies have vulnerabilities and you gotta upgrade them. Because sometimes in order for consistency, in order for release schedules, you don't want to upgrade right away. But when you really have to, there's NPM audit for you to tell you which of your dependencies has that issue. But why do it manually? Have you all heard of dependabot, sneak, or renovate? Again, these are tools that automatically help keep your dependencies up to date and monitor for vulnerabilities. But what about upgrading? How big a leap do you have to take to make that upgrade? Because when I was in my situation, sure, I could have gone from React Native 55 to 59 because, well, I don't know, something about JavaScript, Java stuff, JavaScript core stuff. And cool. I could have gone from 55 to 60 because, cool, native modules are now auto-linked. Again, this is how far behind this project was. I decided to go all the way. And you might be wondering, why in one go? And the answer is, why not? I mean, the thing about platforms like this that we sometimes take for granted is that we're kind of depending on like at least 3 or 4 entities, right? Like, you're dependent on the iOS platform, you're dependent on the Android platform, you're dependent on React, you're dependent on React Native, and every other platform. In a way, you're dependent on every package that you're using. And staying up to date, I find to be more stabilizing, and like, honestly, you're gonna have to do it eventually. I'm gonna take another quote, I'm gonna be fancy. This time from Martin Fowler, talking about doing painful tasks. And it says, if it hurts, do it more often, with the express intent of minimizing that harm. I want to talk about one of my favorite strategies for working on complex dependency management, and those are bleeding edge branches. Have you all heard of these? I get to talk about something they'll have never heard of. This is one of my favorite strategies for doing a big, messy task in Git. Because what you're doing is you've got a branch that you call, I don't know, like I call it Carmen bleeding edge. And what I do is I just go wild in there with the express intent of having large, small, a set of broken commits that maybe don't work. And like, I have a history of like my experimentation, and it's easy to go through. And most importantly, easy to rebase and clean up. And finally, I want to talk about knowing when to stop. Because in this project, for example, there were 72 packages. And I still had a deadline. I'm not going to upgrade all of them. And even so, knowing when to go, with semantic versioning, how far to go can be really important as a consideration. And what I try to do is go MVP, minimum viable package, and go from there. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to, of course, upgrade all of them, because I have to eventually. But going step by step is important. All right, folks. So we've talked about all of these 7 lessons learned. We've understood what dependencies are. We know that we're not alone. We know how to break problems down. We've picked our tools. We've made those leaps. We've used our bleeding edge branches. And we know when to stop. And the thing is, that's not a one and done. We'll be back here, upgrading our dependencies and feeling a little bit of a headache. So am I done? Not really. Now I'm going to do that cool thing where I bring back the quote from the beginning. I like to think that if Leonardo da Vinci was, developing software today, he would probably say, software is never finished, only abandoned. Okay, friends, well, this has been a joy. If you want to get these slides, I'm going to post them on socials. If not, you can get them at carmenh.dev/dependency-management.pdf. And, well, it's been an absolute joy talking to you. Sorry, my slides are sassing me. Carmen, don't forget to tell them you promised you would. Right, I should mention something for the sake of transparency. I used a lot of knitting metaphors. I'm more of a cross-stitcher. I just thought for transparency's sake I should tell you that. Thanks, everybody.